Yeah, I liked how at first we were gonna do this in the parking lot over at our place, because he said like, well, I want to look up a couple of things about it and Hansel and Gretel, and then you go, you know what? Never mind. Let's just do this now.
Yeah.
So we saw not Hansel and Gretel, Gretel and Hansel.
Hansel.
Hansel? 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 Obviously taking wild liberties from the Looney Tunes classic. I'm really glad you got to that reference before I did. This whole time, like, how do I work that in here somehow?
That was always an not inside joke, I guess, but we would always reference that in my family.
Aren't they all witches inside? So this, if you haven't gotten the trailer for this is the adaptation of Hansel and Gretel, where it's certainly advertised as being darker, taking it back to being dark, of course, from the source material, and more of a horror film than, say, a lighter adaptation. And it's a horror film, and it's January, so this is however many weeks we are into January right now is how many horror movies I've seen this month. I will say, though, that I could start out with positive things about this movie. I don't know about you, because you were you were already talking about about this movie when we left.
Well, I didn't hate it. I just the positive things that we both agreed on. What I brought up first, I was like, the score was good. The music was fine. Like, I thought the music was pretty good.
There's things about it that I did love. Like, it's a good-looking movie.
Yeah, the cinematography's good.
It's stunning. The cinematography is outstanding. This may be one of the best-looking January horror movies I've seen.
Yeah. It's not lazy.
No, not at all. There is thought put into the shots, put into the background, put into the props, the mood, the fog, everything. And the soundtrack, too, really works as well.
It was very, like, synth kind of.
So, I mean, of course I love that synth stuff, so I love the soundtrack for this.
It's very synth, yeah.
With the reds coming out of just, like, these hellfires underneath the ground, and even shots they do with these witches in the background with, like, you know, the old school witch hats and everything. I was watching it going, I know it's January and all, and that's when they like to put a lot of horror movies out, but really, this should have come out in October. Because if this feels way more like something that should be out in October
compared to something like Bye Bye Man or something like
compared to like Underwater or The Grudge or The Turning or something like that.
Right. No,
this one
was really pretty, and like the synth score was really, really cool.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting there watching it, going, man, they really put a lot of effort into how this looks. How they're really capturing mood with this witch, the food, how this food's getting made, different effects that they have in it, different things, again, that they're doing with fire, and this witch, and the blackness on her hands and everything.
And I like the main actress a lot.
Sophia Lillis.
Yeah, I do like her. She's
from It and Nancy Drew.
Yeah, I think she's a really good actress.
So this was a weird sit for me, because I was sitting there admiring everything on a technical aspect, but still sitting there thinking, this movie is pretty pretentious because it's not nearly as smart as it thinks it is. Like, this feels like a company, a more mainstream company, trying to do an A24 horror film, or trying to mimic something like The Witch, or
yeah, I can see that.
Different horror movies we see from a more indie studio like that. And that shows in the movie on a script level. Even in the fact the movie doesn't go as hard as those movies do, because this is a PG-13. Now, granted, there is something that happens later on where I was like, I'm surprised they got away with this in a PG-13. But it is a PG-13, so it doesn't go as rough as you would kind of hope it would, considering this is taking it back to being more of a horror story. Even when you were looking up different things that do happen in the story, yeah, this gets darker than a mainstream Hansel and Gretel movie probably would, but not as much as that story does.
No, yeah, I'm okay with taking liberties with Grimm's
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
fairy tales. Like, I'm okay with that. But sometimes when it's like kind of going out of its way to make a point, it kind of loses me.
Oh, that this is a message movie?
Yeah, a little bit of a message movie, which I'm okay with the message. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like,
it's a female empowerment film.
yeah, and I'm okay with that. Like, the message is fine, but when it just kind of gets lost in the story, it's just kind of,
I mean, compared to, like, last month's Black Christmas, which is as bottom of the barrel as you could get in something like that, this,
Like, I was expecting a Hansel and Gretel story, and I didn't feel like I got that at all.
Well, that's why they put, it is just a Gretel story, which is, I guess, why her name's
and
first.
that's fine. You know what? You could do that well.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
of
that
course.
can't be done. I'm not saying you can't. No, it has to be Hansel and Gretel. Like,
No,
yeah. It can be Gretel and Hansel, and you can make it more so where she is the older sibling. She's the one that has to be, empowered. Whatever. But it feels like it's. She
feels like she's from a completely different movie. Everyone else,
as an accent.
I like her as an actress. I do. She is wildly miscast in this movie. It is distracting how miscast she is in this film. Even her character. Everyone else is speaking this old-timey English like something out of The Witch. But she's saying things that a character like this would say in some dystopian future thing, like Handmaid's Tale. Like, everyone else is coming in talking relatively appropriate to what the surroundings in this movie is. But she is having narration saying stuff like, this isn't your ordinary fairy tale. I'm sure you're expecting a prince to show up.
It felt like it was like, something that was made in the 90s where it's like, Dear Diary or something.
Yes, she comes in talking like she's writing a diary. Like she is, like, this is her journal and she's writing a fan fiction.
Like it's, what's that one movie?
About Hansel and Gretel.
That one Winona Ryder movie, Ben Stiller. What am I thinking of?
Oh, Reality Bites?
Yeah, I'm like, it's like reality.
Sure. Kinda, yeah, that's how
not exactly,
but what's distracting, too, is that you have characters in this movie where they're going really hard on their accents, their dialects, and everything, to where a couple times it's like, they're kind of hard to understand, but that's okay. This is kind of in keeping with what the surroundings are and what the setting is. But then, there will be lines like, she'll go up to, Hansel and say, what the hell are you doing? And he'll go like, you said hell. I'm like, really? Pick a time here. She feels, and what's so weird about her performance in this is that she's speaking with this dialect, but with an American accent. So she'll be like, and then we set forth out on our journey into the vast darkness of the woods with this American accent like that, like this.
It was weird.
It was taking me out of it every single goddamn time. And because of that, she's really wooden in this. Like,
I thought she was fine. It's just the accents. She is pretty... Out of all the performances, she was way better in it and, like, Nancy Drew.
Oh, yeah, she is a good actress.
I was like... She wasn't terrible. She wasn't like Dumbo.
Well,
like,
no, she's not...
Like, I see talent there still.
Of course, yes, there's a difference between how she is in this and something like Dumbo, where it's like, well, that's a terrible actor. This feels more like
Maybe it was just like the direction she
No,
had.
she's wildly miscast in this movie.
Mm.
Like, this feels like an actor who's very good in a role that somebody else should be playing. And there are other things
More
that do
modern.
this kind of... I mean, yeah, if this were something that was set in a dystopian future, she'd be great. But there are other things that do this kind of movie based on a fairy tale better than this movie does. Something like The Company of Wolves or Snow White, Tale of Terror, or even some Hansel and Gretel movies are better than this was, because this was a movie where it was frustrating because its strengths are very good, are very, very good, but there was just too many things that were taking me out of this movie that it becomes Star Wars for 20 minutes, where she's being taught the Force by the witch, who might as well be Yoda in a section of this movie. The day is saved by Gretel becoming Rey and using the Force.
I guess I was kind of lost a little bit during this movie, because I guess the witch in this movie is trying to like be like a...
Are you gonna spoil the ending?
No, it's trying to be like an what's the word?
She's trying to empower her?
No, not empower. Apprentice. Like,
yeah.
And she's trying to like pass along her powers, I guess, or like her try to.
She's trying to get her to eat her brother.
Yeah, and I'm like,
your brother's delicious.
But she's like, okay, you have to, trying to be her apprentice, and like this is just what you need to do, and like, and then she gets all these powers, and then saves the day, with her powers.
The Force.
Yeah, the Force basically. But that's where I was like, okay. The way the movie was advertised to me, I felt, maybe I didn't see a lot of longer trailers for it, was I was expecting a very gothic story, because it's Hansel and Gretel. So yeah, I'm expecting something to be pretty dark, but this movie is like very moody, very
you could see
a lot of messaging, like messages sent.
Yeah, and
out. And like I said, I don't want to think I'm anti-feminist at all. I'm just like, I wasn't expecting that, and it kind of took me away from it.
The only reason why
it felt forced a little bit.
I mean, granted, I'm comparing it to Black Christmas.
I didn't see that. Am I wrong?
Movie,
am I wrong? Or?
No, I mean, this was at least trying to be way more of a movie than Black Christmas was. This, when it was getting into the message of the movie, it felt out of place, but
That's
it wasn't as...
I'm not really good at articulating things like...
It was out of place in that you have certain characters talking of a certain time, and then another talking
it was like modern.
Way more modern.
Modern, and then it was like very like archaic.
She feels like someone who's walked in from the year 2020, whereas everyone else is from a completely different movie than what's going on now. Of course, these things can be combined.
Yeah, you can totally do
absolutely. But this was just...
I mean, Handmaid's Tale does that very well.
Yeah, of course. Like, this was just, like, clunkier at it, but it had way more strengths than any time I've seen someone try to do a message movie, and they do it way worse than this movie does. So... Yeah, I don't know, man. This is a weird one. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
I know, I'm trying to ramble. I'm like, maybe it'll come back to me. Maybe it'll come back to me.
I want to see like a Hansel and Gretel story. Like, you can do the whole like the way they were trying to do it, but like make it more gothic, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like, someone who could really, really sink their teeth more so in this to make it feel more genuine and make it flow together better.
Yeah, that's what I...
Like, certainly a company like A24, or having Guillermo del Toro do a movie like this would be better than what we got. Like, as far as this goes compared to the trailer, I I don't know. I thought the trailer kind of... When I left this movie, I didn't think that a different movie was advertised to me from the trailer. I came out of this thinking... Well, I wasn't really thinking about the trailer a lot when I left, but you asked me, like, what did you think of this movie compared to what was advertised? I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, it looked like the trailer.
When I'm on Facebook, sometimes I just see the trailer pop up all the time.
Oh, so. Like a banner ad or something?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. When the movie was over, you were sitting there going, that was terrible.
Yeah, I didn't like it very much. It was just, a lot of narration and dialogue off camera, and it felt like very out of place because it was very modern, like Dear Diary kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of like, so this is my take from what this happened, and like blah blah blah, and then it would be like very archaic things happening in the meanwhile and stuff.
They kept doing things too where like something horrific would happen and they'd keep waking up. Now, granted, like, I wasn't as frustrated at that as when I see, like, fake out dream sequence in movies, like in The Grudge, or what the fuck was it, The Turning, or something like that. Like, this was less that, because, like, something horrific would happen, and she would wake up in bed, but I never thought it was just a dream. I was like, okay, that actually happened, and she's just waking up.
You wouldn't really know, because she would be like, if it was a dream, I wouldn't she would say something like that.
But it kept repeating that.
Yeah, it kept repeating it, and she,
it was doing it over and over and over again. It got really, really repetitive, where she would find something, stumble across something, and then she wakes up. Again, it wasn't so much like fake out dream sequence that didn't really happen. No, it wasn't that. It was just a very repetitive way to tell a lot of this story.
The boy in this, I thought was not a really great actor.
I thought he was better than she was.
Really?
Yeah, because he at least seemed appropriate.
At least the interactions between them, the two of them, I was like, that's not the way siblings talk to each other. It's like, I will see your face someday again. Bye.
I mean... Yeah, I mean, it's that I can chalk up to it being a fairy tale.
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know. I didn't really feel like a love between the two of them. And
no, but I didn't get... As far as... I was way more distracted by her. Like, maybe if I were to watch this again, I'd be like, okay, maybe he's not great either. I don't know, but he wasn't really One, he doesn't feel like he's in the movie that much. Also, he at least felt appropriate to everything else that was going on. He was talking like everybody else. He at least did not sound like he's like from the Midwest.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also a part in the movie where they do shrooms.
I actually like that part.
I was like, what? I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't have a problem with it, but I wasn't expecting it. I was like, okay.
The only thing that was distracting me about that was that the mushrooms looked a little bit like the giant mushrooms from Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, they looked very cartoony.
Yeah, like they did kind of look like that a little bit, but I didn't have a problem with that part. But like a lot of things about this movie could have gone a lot harder than it did.
Yeah, no, for a January horror movie, it's like, no, this was trying. It wasn't lazy. It was trying to do something different, and I appreciate what it was trying to do.
It's just not as good as everything on the technical side of the movie.
It's not as profound as it thinks it is.
No, I mean...
And I also got really lost, kind of, with the witch being young again or something, and then she becomes... I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's... Yeah, if we're comparing it to, like, The Turning, it's wildly better than that, but we're gonna be reviewing another movie this weekend that, in my opinion, is by far and away the best horror movie out in January right now. But, I mean, we'll get to that when we get to that. As far as this goes, there's enough things about it that are really good. The cinematography, the mood, the look, the soundtrack. The Witch, I liked a lot. to where at the very least I'm like, oh, maybe you could pop this up like on Netflix or something like that, because there are things about it that are fine. There's things about it that are really, really damn good. It just has a lot of things in terms of some of the acting, some of the dialogue, some of the plot points in the story that take you out of it and just kind of make you sit there and go like, this isn't as good as like they think it is.
It just doesn't flow very well.
But I mean, I don't think it's a bad movie. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was okay. I wish it was better than what it was.
I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little better than you did. But even I'm saying like, it's worth a rental. I would say it's a good rental, honestly. You don't really need to be seeing this in theaters.
Yeah, I guess if you have nothing else to watch and it's streaming or it's on TV, I guess you can watch it. I don't...
A ringing endorsement.
I didn't really care about this movie.
Yeah. All right. Well...
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, if you want, like... I guess it depends on the kind of person you are. If you want, like, a really gothic, like, Grimm's fairy tale, like, movie that's PG-13, you're not going to get that from this. It's
a PG-13, so yeah, you'll be getting that.
Well, I mean, it's not even, like, the way... Because in the original fairy tale, it's, like, the mom... Like, there's a fathom, I guess... Or not... what is the word I'm trying
to... Like an epidemic?
Yeah,
like
an epidemic.
Yeah.
That happens that... And,
that causes them all to leave.
And then the mom makes them leave.
Yeah, makes them leave.
And like that doesn't happen in this at all.
Yeah, they do not find the magic wardrobe in this movie at all.
And makes them go into the forest so they won't starve, and that doesn't happen in this.
Yeah, the house isn't made of candy either. I wanted my candy house. God damn it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got what am I saying? The rhythm section. I'm seeing the rhythm section with Jared tomorrow. We'll have a review up for Color Out of Space as well, the Richard Stanley, Nicolas Cage movie. Check out the review that's up for me ruining Rob's day by telling him about the Roe v. Wade movie that I watched. So that's posted. So check all that out, and I'll be seeing you guys later.
Bye.